When Messiah was being executed, he uttered seven phrases, commonly known as the seven words. What we're going to do today is look at the third word that he said. Here is your mother, the famous last words of the Messiah. Now, this reading comes from the book of John, chapter 19, verse 27, which says, he said to his disciples, quote, here is your mother. From that hour, the disciple took her into his house. Now, John, the son of Zebedee, the disciple Yeshua loved, saw the three women standing near the foot of the cross. The four Roman soldiers guarding the crosses seemed to pay the women no attention. Now, John plucked up his courage and approached, taking his place beside Mary, the mother of the Master. Now, the Master looked down and saw his beloved disciple standing with his beloved mother. Now, the Torah commands a son to honor his father and his mother. The sages understood this to mean, at a minimum, providing for one's parents' physical needs, that is, to financially and physically assist his mother and father, especially in their later years, if necessary. Quote, our rabbis taught, what does it mean to honor one's father? Honor means that he must give him food and drink, clothe and cover him, and lead him in and out. Be Kudashim 3b. Now, some rabbis went on to great lengths to honor their mothers. The Talmud reports that every time Rabbi Yosef heard his mother's footsteps approaching, he would rise from his studies and declare, quote, I stand up before the approach of the Shekinah. Rabbi Tarfon was famous for allowing his mother to use him as a furniture, B. Kiddushim 31b. Now, once his mother was walking in a courtyard of the house of the Sabbath. Her shoe slipped off. Rabbi Tarfon scampered behind her, placing his hand beneath her sole of her bare foot as she walked until she reached her bed. This comes from Peye 1:1, cited in Abraham Cohen, Every Man's Talmud. Now, as the master faced his imminent death, his thoughts turned into the welfare of his mother, his least earthly responsibility. As the firstborn of the house, she has been in charge since the death of his father. He discharged the trust to his closest disciples, ensuring that his mother would be provided for and fulfilling one last great mitzvah. He said to his mother, women, behold your son. He said to the disciple, behold your mother. John 19:27. The last commandment Yeshua fulfilled before death came with a promise of long life. Quote, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged, in which the Lord your God gives you. Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Now, Beasley Murray says that, quote, a crucified man had the right to make a testimony disposition even from the cross. Yeshua's brief words to his mother and the disciple are not just a condemnation or suggestion, they are more like a testimony disposition in language. A reminiscence of adoption. This comes from George Beasley Murray of John, right here. So he cites Tobit 7:12 as an example of his kind language. So, for example, Jewish law says if a man was crucified while on the cross and indicated that he wanted to give his wife a certain certificate of divorce, they write it out for him and hand it over to her as long as he is still breathing. This comes from Gideon 5:1. The crucified man divorces his wife either to disinherit her from his assets or to ensure that, in the event that his death cannot be verified by legal witnesses, she is free to remarry. Now, why did the master charge one of his disciples with responsibility for his mother when that responsibility naturally fell on his younger brothers? James, the brother of the master, should have become the provider and protector of their mother. Yeshua wanted to bring reconciliation to his two estranged families. At the foot of the cross, his mother and his aunt represented his natural family. His disciples, Mary Magdalene and John, the son of Zebedee, represented his family of disciples. Now, his Davidic family from the Nazareth represented his rejection of them and his adoption of a family of disciples. On one occasion, Mary and his brothers tried to forcibly remove him from Capernaum and return him to Nazareth. He did not even admit to them into his presence. Instead, he replied, "Who are my mother and my brothers?" Mark 3:33. Motioning to the disciples seated around him, he said, "Behold, my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God, he is my brother, my sister, and my mother." Mark 3:34 to 35. Now, at the cross, he sought to reconcile his natural family with his family of disciples by placing his mother, the matriarch of the Nazarene clan, under the care of his disciples. Henceforth, his mother and his beloved disciples were to stand in relationship to one another as mother and son, with John taking Yeshua's own place in the family. Now, likewise, he left his disciples under the leadership and admiration of James, his younger brother. Henceforth, his brother James occupied his role over the disciples. Neither the Gospels nor Acts narrate the appointment of James, but the apocryphal Gospel of Thomas reports the following quote, "The disciples said to Jesus, 'We know that you will depart from who is to be our leader.' Jesus said to them, 'Wherever you are to go to James the righteous, for whose sake heaven and earth came into being.'" Now, intertwining the relationships ensured the unclarification of the two families into one community. The Gospel of John says that, quote, "From the hour the disciple took her into his own home." John 19:27. His own what? Almost every translation supplied the missing noun, rendering it the disciple took her into his own home. Now, some commentaries go as far to suggest that the beloved disciple had a house in Jerusalem and he immediately took Mary to live in his house. But the Gospel of John does not indicate anything more than the disciple taking Mary under his own care. And that is what the Master meant by "Mother, look at your son," referring to the change of John taking the place of Yeshua. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Shalom.